Hi everyone, this is Delight from DenverWhimsyCrochet.com. Today I'm going to show you a technique that is crucial to making your beanie. It's called the increase. So, if you've been following my crochet videos so far, you have this. So to turn this into a beanie, you have to increase. So this little guy, this little circle, has got to grow to be as big as the crown of your head, here. Okay, so to get from this to this, you have to increase. So today to start, what you're going to need is your crochet hook, your beanie so far, which should be a magic circle with about 6 single crochets in it. Then you're going to need a stitch marker, looks like this, and that will help you count and keep track of your rows so your beanie ends up the right size. And finally, you're always going to need a beverage to crochet with me. Today, mine is Red Clover Blossom Tea, which has kind of a funny story. I wrote about it in the blog at DenverWhimsyCrochet.com. So check that out and meet me back here to learn how to increase. Okay, so let's get started with our increase stitch. So here I've got my 6 single crochets inside of my magic circle, and I'm ready to start an increase. The abbreviation for increase in my patterns is INC. So when you see that, you'll know that this is what you should do. So to start, I've got my single crochets, and I'm going to do an increase in the next stitch, which is this right here. If you're making a striped beanie, you're gonna add in 1 step before you do I lied, 2 steps before you do the increase. And so just know that if that's what your pattern is, you're not going to follow this exactly. There'll be another video about that in the future, but this is for a solid basic beanie, just 1 color. All right, so I've got my stitches, and then the tricky part here is that I have this little loop that's sticking up right here. And I do not actually want to go in that loop. I'm just putting my hook in there to show you what it is. That was a leftover chain 1 from when I did my magic circle, and I'm going to skip right over it and kind of smash it down in between my stitches here, and I'm not going to use it. So make sure you find that little loop and you skip over it and don't put any stitches in it. Where I am going to stitch is right here. You can see there's a V. There's a front loop and a back loop here. And I'm going to go underneath both of them. So I'm going to put my hook through there. Okay, so I've got my V on my hook and then my loop here. I'm going to do a single crochet. And now this part is the increase part. I'm going to go back in under the same V and do another single crochet. So it's going to be right here. I'm going to do my second single crochet. That is an increase, doing 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. So now I'm going to put my stitch marker in. I always wait until I've done my 2 single crochets to go back to the first one and put my stitch marker in. So that tells me where the very first stitch of my row is. So I'll know once I get back here that I've finished my row. And that's going to help me count and make things the right size when I'm following the pattern. So I'm going to do this whole first row just to keep showing you. Here's 1 single crochet, and here's 2. See, I'm going back in the exact same spot to do my second one. Okay, so now I'm ready to move on to the third V here. I'm going to go under those 2 loops, single crochet. Now I've got to do 1 more. So I'm going to go back under the same one. Keep going. Now I'm on number 4. So this is my 4th increase and my 8th stitch because there's 2 stitches in each increase, or excuse me, 2 single crochets in each increase. Going around and around, tweedle, 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 and there we go. I just did my second round of my beanie. Now, I know that I did it right because I was paying really close attention, but if you got a little distracted, you might want to stop and count your stitches before you go to the next one to make sure that you are on the right track. So I usually count them backwards. So let's do that quickly. Make sure that we've got the right amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So number 12 is where my stitch marker is, and that's exactly what I want. So for the next round, I'm going to keep doing increases, but I'm also going to do some plain stitches, which is where you just do one single crochet in one of the bottom stitches. So the pattern of this changes with every round. That's another reason that you use the stitch marker. So I'm going to start out with an increase. So I just did 2 in 1, and I put my stitch marker back in my first one here. And now I'm going to do my plain stitch, where I'm just going to do 1 single crochet in this next stitch here. So there's just 1. Now I move along and I do an increase. And the next one I do a plain stitch. Okay, and so for this round I go all the way around and do increase, plain, increase, plain, increase, plain. And then for the next round, I'll follow the pattern, do whatever it says as far as increases and plain. And I'm just adding more and more plain stitches as I go, because if I don't, it's going to turn into this crazy, like wavy, funky thing if I have too many increases. So that is how I make the beanie. And this, I'm going to stop this when it gets to be about the right size for the crown of the head. So if I'm making one for myself, I can just measure it quickly like this. I just put my index finger and my thumb together and I stretch out as big as it can get, and that is the size that I need for the crown of my head. So you can try that and see if that works for you. Obviously, if you're making the hat for someone else and not yourself, that's not going to work. So you'll have to follow the pattern more closely and figure out exactly how to measure more accurately. I don't love measuring, so I just use my hands. But you can find out what works the best for you. So again, this is the increase stitch. It's called INC in the pattern. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at denverwhimsy@gmail.com or leave a comment on this blog post at denverwhimsycrochet.com.